Hello, dear students. We are yet again to discuss the chapter, the life processes. We are coming to almost the last part of this lesson, life process, and today in this lesson we are bringing the topic transportation in human. Under this topic, transportation in human, we will discuss what is transportation, why is it important in the body of human being, especially in all animals. We will discuss about the heart of a human being, then the circulation of blood through the heart. We will also find the composition of blood in our body, and finally we will discuss about the blood vessels. So let us start the lesson, and let us start with what is transportation. Transportation means it is the carrying of materials, necessary materials like food after digestion, or the oxygen gas from the lungs towards the tissues. They always need to be carried, and again from the tissues carbon dioxide is to be carried back to the lungs so that we can eliminate it from our body. Once the food reaches from the digestive system into our tissues or into our cells and tissues utilize the energy liberated from the food, and then the unwanted part of the food which remains inside the cells are again to be eliminated by the excretory system. This is why food, oxygen and all different necessary substances like minerals, hormones, etc. are to be transported, means need to be carried. So what is transportation therefore? It is the process by which the necessary and unwanted substances are carried from one place to another. And to carry out this activity in our body, we have a system, and we call this system as circulatory system. Now coming to the second part, why is it important? What is the importance of transportation in the body of animals, especially in the body of human being? You see, food, once we take into our mouth, we masticate it, then finally it goes to the different parts of the alimentary canal. It is digested part by part. And once the food is digested, then what is to be done with the food? The food from the digestive system needs to be carried to the different parts of our body, because in every part of our body there are tissues, there are cells which are living, they are hungry, they need it, and therefore transportation is the only means by which the food from the digestive tract, after it is digested, can be carried to the different parts of our body. Similarly, the oxygen gas which we get in our lungs now need to be transported to the different parts of the body, that is to the different tissues and cells. That is its importance. Means the materials, they actually do not move their own, but they need to be carried, they need to be transported. And who carries it? It is actually carried or transported by blood and lymph. So in our body there are some substances like blood and lymph which are responsible for transporting those materials from this place to another place of our body, and this is why we have to say the transportation is very important. Now what happens if in a particular animal, maybe it is in human being, transportation is failed? The answer is very simple. This will lead to the death of the animal, including human body. Coming back to the most important part, that is heart. Actually, in this transportation system or the circulatory system of human, we have three important parts, and these parts are, number one, there will be the heart. Second thing important, we have to discuss about the blood, and third thing which is present in the circulatory system are the blood vessels. So when we are going to discuss about the transportation, we need to discuss in details about the heart, blood and blood vessel. So let us start with the heart of a human being. Now what is the location of the heart? The heart is located in the chest cavity. It is about the size of our fist. About the size of our fist. If you just make your own hand fist, then your heart will be the size of your own fist. So this heart is slightly tilted towards our left side. The heart is not exactly in the middle of our chest, but it is placed a bit towards the left side. It is tilted. The entire heart is covered with a membrane as a protective layer, and that protective layer is called as pericardium. I'm just writing this: pericardium. It is also called as pericardial membrane. So peri means outer and cardium means the heart. Heart is made up of a special muscle called as cardiac muscle. So the cardiac muscles of the heart remains covered externally by a membrane, and that is called as pericardium. Now beneath the pericardium there will be the heart, but in between the heart and pericardium there is a small cavity that is called as pericardial cavity. Pericardial cavity is present beneath the pericardium. That means in between the heart and the pericardium, the small gap what can be seen is called as pericardial cavity. But this gap, pericardial cavity, is not empty. It remains filled with a liquid, and that liquid is called as pericardial fluid. So all these structures like the pericardium, pericardial cavity, and the fluid present in the cavity called as pericardial fluid, all these are actually giving some extra protection to our heart. From the external protect, that is injury, the heart is always being protected by these three special arrangements. Now beneath this pericardial fluid, pericardial membrane, the heart is present. I have already mentioned heart is made up of some special muscles called as cardiac muscle. You have got it in your class 9 syllabus. And then entire heart is divisible into 4 chambers. There will be upper 2 chambers called as auricles and the lower 2 chambers called as ventricles. Again, auricle is again divided into 2. One is the right auricle and the second is left auricle. Similarly, ventricle is divided by 2. Called is right ventricle and left ventricle. So total 4. And this is the right side and that is the left side, and in between them you can see this is the partition. This partition is called as septum. And the septum is differentiating the heart into 2 halves. One is the right half and the left half. Similarly, there is another, you can see septum, and this septum is dividing the heart into upper and lower chamber. The upper 2 chambers are the auricles, the right and left auricles, and the lower 2 chambers are called as ventricles, the right and left ventricles. Now this entire heart is again arranged with some blood vessels, and these are the blood vessels. Now let us see those blood vessels. This is the right auricle, and into the right auricle 2 large blood vessels enter, this one and this one. This is called as superior vena cava, and this blood vessel is called as inferior vena cava. Superior vena cava and inferior vena cava always opens into the right auricle. And then from right auricle, this is right ventricle. Between the right auricle and right ventricle there is a valve, and this valve is called as tricuspid valve. Then this right ventricle is again connected with pulmonary artery. This right ventricle is connected with the pulmonary artery, and then this is left auricle. Left auricle is connected with pulmonary veins, and from the pulmonary veins you can see this is left auricle and there is left ventricle. Between them there is a valve. This valve is called as bicuspid valve, also known as mitral valve, and then from left ventricle the systemic aorta arises, and this is systemic aorta, also called as dorsal aorta. So these are the different blood vessels. So as in general, this is the entire structure of the human heart. But we will now discuss circulation of blood through the heart. How blood enters the heart and how it goes out of the heart. We are going to see the course of blood circulation through the human heart. So let us try to understand it. First, blood from different parts of the body, which are specially impure blood, and blood from different parts of the body which are impure. These are the impure blood, and all the impure blood from different parts of the body will enter the right auricle through this superior and inferior vena cava. This is the first step you need to remember. So after that, what happens? The impure blood enters the right auricle. So the all impure blood now will reach the right auricle. I'm just showing it. So right auricle will receive only the impure blood, that is the blood which contains carbon dioxide, which needs to be purified. This blood from all parts of the body will reach right auricle. When the right auricle will be full of blood and it cannot hold any more blood in it, then the pressure of the blood will open the valve here. This is the valve, and the valve will get open, which is tricuspid valve, and then the blood will reach the right ventricle. So which blood will reach? The blood which was present in the right auricle will now enter the right ventricle. Means the impure blood from the right auricle will reach the right ventricle. So entire right side of our heart contains impure blood. It may be the right auricle, the upper chamber, or it may be the right ventricle, the lower chamber. Both the auricle and ventricles and the right side of our heart receives impure blood. Now what happens to this impure blood? This impure blood, which is now filled inside the right ventricle, will now come out of the ventricle. From the right ventricle it will come out, and it will come out through the pulmonary artery. It will go out of the heart through this one called pulmonary artery, and this is another pulmonary artery. Through this pulmonary artery, the impure blood will go out. And where will it go? It will go to the lungs. Why? In the lungs, the carbon dioxide which is present in this impure blood will be given back in the lungs, and from the lung, fresh air, that is fresh oxygen, will be collected, and after collecting oxygen, the same blood will return to the heart, but this time the blood will return to the pulmonary veins, and from the pulmonary veins now blood will enter into the left auricle. Now the blood is coming to the left auricle, but this time the blood is coming with oxygen, means this time the blood is coming as pure blood. So impure blood from the right side went out to the lungs for oxygenation, and this was done by the pulmonary artery, and then after getting oxygen, the blood returns to the left auricle through the pulmonary veins. When the left auricle will be full of blood, the pressure of the blood will open this valve, which is called as bicuspid valve or mitral valve, and then blood will come down to the left ventricle. Now the blood will be filled inside the left ventricle, and this blood is coming from left auricle, which is oxygenated. So this blood is also oxygenated. It means that the left side of our heart always contains blood with oxygen, means pure blood. So this is very clear now. In our heart, the right side will receive carbon dioxide containing blood, and the left side will receive oxygenated blood. This carbon dioxide containing blood and oxygenated blood never mix inside the heart because there is a shutdown. Now what happens to this blood which is now in the left ventricle? From the left ventricle, the blood will now go out through the systemic aorta or dorsal aorta, and this oxygenated blood through the dorsal aorta will go to the entire body to supply the fresh, pure and oxygenated blood. So this is how the circulation of blood through our heart is completed. After this, we are coming to see the composition of heart. So the composition of blood. Now blood is composed of, number one is a liquid part, blood will be always containing, blood will contain liquid part, and then second is the solid part. So blood always contains two components. One is the liquid component and the second is solid component. Though we see blood as always as a liquid, but actually it is a colloid. So in that colloid there is one liquid part, and this liquid part of the blood is called as plasma. The liquid part is called as plasma, and the solid part which is present in our blood are of three types. There are three types. The number one is called as RBC, red blood corpuscles, also called as erythrocytes. Number two, they are called as WBC, white blood corpuscles, also called as leukocytes. And number three, third one, they are called as platelets. Platelets, also known as thrombocytes. So liquid part of the blood contains plasma, which is mostly water, and in that water some inorganic and organic substances remain dissolved. Due to presence of liquid plasma, the whole blood appears to be liquid. That is to say that blood is viscous, means blood gets its liquid nature due to presence of plasma. In this plasma, these solid parts remain suspended. These solid parts are the blood cells, red blood cells, white blood cells, and thrombocytes or platelets. RBCs are biconcave in size, like this type of cells, or they may be oval, like this type of cells. And these cells are containing cytoplasm and other cell organelles necessary to keep it alive. However, these cells will not contain a nucleus. That is to say that RBC are some special cells, and these RBC cells do not contain a nucleus. So does it mean they are prokaryotes? The answer is no. They are not prokaryotes because when the RBCs were formed, at the beginning they had a nucleus, but later on the nucleus disappears. So these are eukaryotic cells, but the speciality is that RBC never contain a nucleus when the RBC get matured, except in one animal, and that is camel. Camel is the only mammal whose RBCs contain a nucleus, and apart from that, no mammals have RBC with nucleus. The most important function of the RBC is that inside this RBC there is one substance called as hemoglobin, HB, hemoglobin. And this hemoglobin is necessary to transport oxygen, to transport carbon dioxide from one part of the body to another. Coming back to WBC, these are some cells, round, polygonal. They have also cytoplasm exactly like RBC, but you will find a clear nucleus. A distinct nucleus is visible. Due to presence of this nucleus, they are true cells. So sometimes therefore white blood corpuscles, they are not called as corpuscles, but they are sometimes called as white blood cells, because they have full characteristics of cells as they have nucleus inside them. The nucleus and the cytoplasm of WBCs are different. Depending on that, WBCs are broadly classified into two categories. They are called as granulocyte, where in the granules, some granules you will see in the cytoplasm, and agranulocyte are those WBC whose cytoplasms are without any granules. And again, these granulocyte and agranulocytes are divided into 5 types. They can be like eosinophil, neutrophil, basophil, monocyte, and lymphocyte. So all these different types of cells, which are collectively called as WBC, they mostly important because they can protect our body from the attack of pathogens, from the attack of disease causing germs. And this is how WBCs are related to immunity. They can give us immunity, means the ability to fight against the disease causing germs. And finally we are coming to see the platelets. They are irregular in shape and they are mainly responsible for coagulation or clotting of blood. Whenever there is an injury, blood oozes out from that injury. But it doesn't ooze for a long time. The bleeding stops after some time. Why? Because there appears some clotting. And this clotting is a very special biochemical process going on inside our body, which is always helped by the platelets present in the blood itself. So these are the composition of blood, chemical composition of blood, where the liquid part, plasma, which gives the liquid nature to the entire blood, and solid parts like RBC, WBC and platelets. And after that we are coming to the last part of this lesson, and in this part we will discuss about the blood vessels. So what are blood vessels? So this is heart, and from the heart you can see these are some tube-like structures. Through these tube-like structures either blood is coming into the heart or blood is going out of the heart. So these tube-like structures through which blood is being carried, they are called as vessels. Also called as blood vessels, because through these vessels blood gets transported. So these blood vessels are of two types mainly. What they are? Some blood vessels carry blood into the heart. Some blood vessels carry blood always into our heart. For example, you can see this superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. They are carrying blood into the right auricle, means into the heart. Similarly, pulmonary veins, they are carrying blood from the lungs into the left auricle. So these pulmonary veins or superior and inferior vena cava are some blood vessels which carry blood into the heart. And there will be some other blood vessels which carry blood away from the heart. Yes, that is the second category of blood vessels. For example, if you see this pulmonary artery, what does it do? From the right ventricle, the carbon dioxide containing blood goes out of the heart through this pulmonary artery, and finally they go to the lungs for oxygenation. Or from left ventricle, the oxygenated blood to distribute inside the entire body, it goes out through the systemic aorta or dorsal aorta, simply aorta. So this aorta or the pulmonary arteries are certain blood vessels which carry blood away from the heart. So these are the two types of blood vessels we have in our body. Now scientists have given name to these blood vessels. What are these blood vessels? These are the blood vessels which carry blood into the heart, and such blood vessels will be called as veins. So what are veins? Veins will always carry blood into the heart. They will carry blood into the heart, and then you will see second type, and that is these are the blood vessels which carry blood away from the heart, and they are called as artery. So veins, and then plural number if we write, it will be called as arteries. So veins and arteries. So what are veins? Veins are those blood vessels which carry blood into the heart. And what are arteries? Arteries are those blood vessels which carry blood away from the heart. So that is the only definition of arteries and veins. Now let us see the differences. The difference is that, first difference, veins carry blood into the heart. Second, arteries carry blood away from the heart. And the second difference you will get, veins are present just below our skin. Just below the skin, just in the superficially veins are present. But arteries, they are not superficially present just below the skin. but arteries are present deep inside the muscles. So under the skin you will never see the arteries, you will see veins. So veins are superficially placed, but arteries are deeply placed. And another interesting thing, arteries generally carry pure blood, means oxygenated blood, and veins carry impure blood, means carbon dioxide containing blood. However, there is an exception. The exception is pulmonary artery and pulmonary veins, because pulmonary artery is carrying impure blood with carbon dioxide, and pulmonary vein is carrying pure blood with oxygen. So this is the difference you will see, exceptional difference. Generally veins carry impure blood, but here this vein is carrying pure blood. Arteries generally carry pure blood, but these arteries are carrying impure blood. So all arteries carry pure blood except pulmonary artery, and all veins carry impure blood except pulmonary veins. So these are the differences between arteries and veins, and something about blood vessel. So that was the different parts under transportation in the human. And in this lesson today we have discussed what is transportation, its importance, the structure of the heart in our body, then composition of blood, and finally blood vessel. Thank you.